Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Castillo, founder of BoldPM, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's discussion. The topic for today is business ideation made simple. And this discussion is for those of you who are considering starting up your own business, or perhaps you are being asked by your executives and senior managers within your current organization to consider coming up with new ideas so you can head up a new line of business. And perhaps you're in the position where your organization is looking for new sources of revenue streams, and they're looking to expand their product portfolio. Any of these situations, this topic is for you. And what we're going to be discussing today is a simple 3-step process that uses design thinking to come up with ideas for new businesses. And it's a simple process you can follow to turn ideas into a viable business with a set of desirable products. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Before we get started, I actually want to focus on this quote. And this quote from Thomas Edison, who's an inventor, it says the following: genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And being an entrepreneur or starting up a new business, or even starting up a new business within a business, takes dedication and a lot of work as well. So hopefully this process will help you kind of understand the things that are key to ensure that you are able to come up with ideas that can be quickly turned into a successful new business. So business ideation is exactly that. It's actually this creative process by which you're going to turn ideas, design details, concepts, and start validating those against people that have problems that need to be solved and jobs to be done, and that for them, they're not necessarily enjoying what they need to do. They just do it because they have to, not because they want to. And often they're looking for someone to offer them a better solution as to how they work together, or how they actually create the value that they're creating and that they're selling in market. And often it actually requires a lot of brainstorming and often prototyping as well, storyboarding, and coming up with user stories and use cases and jobs to be done for those prospects that today have some unsolvable problem that they encounter often, and they're looking for someone who can provide them a great solution. So this is what we're going to be discussing, this process, this creative process by which you can turn ideas into a successful business. And I want to point out that business ideation and whatever steps we're going to be discussing, there's a lot of iteration going back and forth between step 1, step 2, step 3, back and forth, because you are continuously discovering new things that you didn't know before. Not only do you start with a set of perhaps known unknowns, but you're actually discovering many unknown unknowns. And the more you wonder and the more you discover, that's exactly the process of ideation. You want to go through this before you begin designing and building anything, or even start up your organization. Before you actually start the organization, you want to make sure that at least you understand exactly how much you need, how much funding you need, what is the level of effort, and what resources you need in order to execute on whatever you want to do in the market. And so this process allows you to select the right business and the right products to sell to the right customers. And that is really what you're doing and iterating as you're discovering new prospects, you're discovering what solutions they prefer, and you're also discovering the type of businesses that they really will enjoy engaging with. And design thinking, there is an entire mindset. And this double diamond process is a perfect example of a design thinking framework and mindset that you can use, and you can actually utilize, repurpose it to ideate a new business. And the whole purpose of this double diamond is that it requires both diverging and converging thinking. You need both in order to come up with, number one, understand the right market problem to solve and the people who have that. And the same for diverging and also converging thinking to come up with the right solution that fits that market. And the more of this that you do before you begin executing on design and development, the better off, the higher the likelihood that you're going to have a successful business and a valuable product. And here's the 3-step process that we're talking about. Step 1, you want to focus on finding and understanding the right market problem to solve. And then number 2, find the right solution that fits that group of prospects or that market. And number 3, finding the right business model, which means whatever you're going to do to actually make money by marketing and selling your solution, which is a product or a set of products. So this is it. We're going to talk about in more details the 3 steps, these 3 steps in order. We're going to start with number 1. And business ideation process as being applied, as we apply design thinking, you're using that first diamond of this double diamond process to focus on understanding the right market problem to solve. And from there, reframing that problem to understand not only what the problem is, but also who has it, how often it's happening, and all those details that are needed in order for you to understand whether or not there's going to be a market and is it even worthwhile to find the right solution for that problem. And then you move on to the second diamond, and that second diamond is all about understanding concepts and ideas and design details of things that you can incorporate into a solution that ends up being a product or an entire portfolio of products all focused on solving that problem that you are trying to solve for the stakeholders that you have identified in the market. And then the final step is also about iterating between the problem and the solution space to actually find the right business model to go to market with. And this will help you understand the type of business structure that you need to have in place and the type of funding that you need and how long before you actually are able to build a product and be able to distribute it and build a market so you can actually start selling and increasing the marketing and sales of that product over time and drive your business into becoming profitable. So this process, it starts with looking for ideas, design details, and concepts, and be able to validate those concepts against the stakeholders for which you're trying to help by solving their problem. And brainstorming is one of these steps of number 1. Brainstorming to find out what is the market problem that you should focus on solving, and then carrying out some further market research to understand those set of stakeholders that have that problem. And often you're not necessarily focusing or narrowing down on one problem, but you're finding multiple problems, and then you're trying to figure out how to prioritize those problems to figure out which one you're going to try to focus on working on finding the right solution that fits that particular market. Understand that brainstorming is exactly the process of which you will carry out diverging thinking to expand all and try to get as many ideas and as many concepts and design details as possible in trying to understand the problem from different perspectives, but then also then converging into that, into reframing the problem and make sure that you have clarity in the way you're enunciating your problem. And that means that you have to have some sort of problem statement so everybody agrees that the problem statement captures the essence of the root cause of the problem. And carrying out brainstorming can also be done for once you move on into actually finding the right solution, because it's the same process you can use to also then start focusing on coming up with all different possible solutions and different ways of solving the same problem, and then narrowing it down into the best one, the one that fits the market through validating and testing those concepts with the stakeholders that have the problem. Now, I want to tell you that brainstorming, there's two different ways of doing brainstorming. Individual brainstorming, meaning you're doing on your own, or individuals carry out a brainstorming process on their own, and you can do group brainstorming as well. Well, in the process of ideation and to create synergy in the ideation process, you want to carry out both individual as well as group brainstorming. So it really helps when you're doing this ideation process when you actually have a team of people carrying this process. And it doesn't have to be a very big team. A small team can be very effective. And actually, organizations that really want to have a high likelihood of coming up with a winning problem to solve and a winning proposed solution to move on to design and development, they actually do this process a few times a year, and they actually will compete and have multiple teams, and they all have the purpose of coming up with the best idea and the best solution that has the largest market possible before you actually move that into design and development. And so the more of this that you do as a group, as a team, or even on an individual basis, it becomes sort of like practice makes perfect. You become much better when you're carrying out this process on an ongoing basis. And usually most organizations that do this right are doing this maybe once or twice a year. And they actually will encourage their workers to be part of this, because it doesn't really matter where you're at within the organization. Anyone can come up with ideas, valuable ideas and valuable concepts. And you don't necessarily need to have your customers or your current customers involved. Often, you just want to make sure you have different perspectives. And the more diversity in your team and that actually carries out the ideation process, the greater the amount of synergy that can be created through collaboration in being able to come up with as many ideas and as many concepts as possible to ensure that you can have the right business idea that will be actually implemented. So brainstorming is also part of this. Carrying this out can be done by the process of taking a set of unorganized ideas. So basically the brainstorming session is coming up with as many ideas and as many concepts and as many design details as you can get, put them all in one place, and they're going to be unorganized. It's just going to be one big lump of sticky notes or Post-its, perhaps on a wall or perhaps on a whiteboard. But over time, the group then will start creating clusters, and those clusters will be themes that can be different ideas about a different type of business. Each one would be completely separate and different. And now you need to kind of start really applying that converging thinking to come up and narrow down and focus on one of these themes that is going to be worthwhile continuing to pursue further. And for this, a blank canvas is one perfect example of what can be used during a brainstorming exercise by a team to actually come up and start capturing ideas and being able to create those clusters. In a very similar place, you can start with unorganized ideas, just adding as many as possible in whatever period of time that is. And the metrics that you're going to carry out in the brainstorming exercise, by the way, is measuring the number of ideas, the number of concepts, and the number of design details about solutions as possible by the same group. And often that's your first metric, is to just have lots of ideas. It doesn't really matter whether they apply or not, because you don't really know what you're going to find. You just allow as many ideas and as many concepts and as many design details as a team can produce. And that is the whole point of the brainstorming exercise. Then you proceed to create the clusters or your themes, and then figuring out from there, narrow it down into which of these clusters you're going to continue investigating more. And you might narrow it down to one or two, and then further investigation will continue until you narrow it down even further over time by carrying out the process of expanding and then converging onto something that might work better based on everyone's wisdom, collective knowledge. If that doesn't work, there's always different ways. You can actually look up lists. I mean, I found this list of the best businesses to own in 2022. This actually is published out there. You just have to find it. This was published by the Business Management degree. And they actually have a website where they list the top 30 best businesses that you should consider owning when you are an entrepreneur thinking about starting a brand new business. And notice that many of these businesses, they exist today. What they're really saying is that demand for these type of businesses is going to be quite high. Let's look at an example. E-commerce. Post-COVID-19, Amazon.com is making lots of money because everybody's now ordering online as opposed to having to go to a store and just wait for it to be delivered within a day or so. And there's a lot of demand for more type of e-commerce and of different types. And that's going to be an emergence of e-commerce businesses that want to become the next Amazon in specific niches that they understand. These business owners and these smaller businesses, in order for them to grow, they're going to need people that have the knowledge about retail, distribution, and fulfillment, figuring out who to partner with, not just on the supply side, but also on the distribution side, in order so that they don't have to do everything on their own. And they can become very profitable very quickly by relying on pieces that are already out there in the market that are really more focused on just doing nothing but fulfillment or nothing but distribution, or there's specifically a type of retail that is only for a certain market, not the entire market, the bigger market. These are all things that are needed. And if you follow along, because you're going to be collecting private information, especially when you're taking out anything that is needed for billing and to make purchases, then you want to make sure that all of that information is kept private and away from any kind of malicious intrusion or threats, somebody trying to hack or somebody trying to hold your information for ransom, like ransomware attack. And because of that, cybersecurity software businesses are going to search, not just on the consulting side, understanding exactly how you should be protecting your data for when data needs to be protected so that keep it away from any bad actors, but also ensure that you can maintain your business continuity so that you can continue operating your business and not have to deal with some sort of intrusion that actually stops your business from making money. And all of these cybersecurity services and cybersecurity software is also surging. So that's another, they're in the top 5. So if you're in technology and that's your expertise, or you're in software, these are the type of businesses that you can consider starting out, because demand is going to rise, because there'll be all sorts of different businesses that will need to secure their information that they're collecting, especially when it comes to their customers, their clients, and often it's also about protecting their intellectual property. So this is another source of ideas. If you don't think that you or your team can come up with ideas, you can always look for lists and then kind of explore a little bit further, and then really start focusing on the type of business that you want to start, and then coming up with what problem and who you're going to target in the market, and then start designing the solution behind those stakeholders, those prospects that you have identified that are unhappy or dissatisfied with any incumbents, any of the current competitors that may be out there today. So moving on, step number 1 is finding the right problem, right? You're going to apply this process of brainstorming to come up with identifying the right problem. And before we get into deeper into a discussion about what entails in what's entailed in this particular step, let's talk about a quote. And this quote is from Albert Einstein. It says, "If I was given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem first, and then 1 minute resolving it." What Albert Einstein is saying is this is how crucial it is for you to understand what is the market problem that you're solving first, and make sure that everybody in your team is clear as to why it's important, to find a solution for this problem. And who is it that has this problem? Because those are your likely customers, future customers or future users, or a combination of both, because they're dealing with the impact of this problem whenever it occurs. And the more that you understand about the problem, the easier it'll become for you to understand what are the constraints of your proposed solution before you begin building a proposed solution. So don't assume that just because you can build any solution to the market problem, that that's going to be what fits the market, because often it is not. Often your stakeholders, the prospects that have the problem, they already have clarity of what specifically they want are their needs, their desires, and you need to understand that, discover that in part of your discussions with those stakeholders in order for you to really fully understand the problem from different perspectives of everyone that's involved, from the actual people that encounter the problem to the managers of those people that are encountering the problem, and other people that are also impacted whenever these people are encountering the same problem, because it's causing pain across in ripples. And often you need to spend a lot of time here in doing discovery to ensure that you understand every single aspect and do root cause analysis and failure mode analysis to understand the root cause of that problem, to understand everything that is needed about the problem. And here's a process you can follow. This is actually from a article that I read on Harvard Business Review. I believe the actual consulting firm that actually carries out this for their clients is called Innocentive, and it's actually a 4-step process by which, at the end, the output of this process is to have a concise and clear problem statement that everyone understands and agrees with. And you want to validate this problem statement with the stakeholders that are encountering this problem whenever it happens. And so this is part of you understanding and defining in a way that is clear the problem that you want to focus on solving. And the problem space will include answering any of these questions as part of your problem statement. What is the problem? Who are the people that are facing that problem? How many people encounter the problem? And what are the demographics of those target of those people, those prospects? How are they dealing with the problem at present time? What are the current alternatives that are out there that are sort of incomplete solutions for them? And what is the impact or the adverse effects of those alternatives that are out there today that aren't the perfect solution for them? And what tools and functionality do those people wish they would have today? All of these things are going to be about understanding not only their needs, but also their desires. And any successful product in the solution would have to satisfy not just the needs, but also the desires and the delighters, maybe have a combination of all those things in the solution that's going to have the right fit in the market. And all of these things you need to understand before you begin building a solution. And here's the process by which you will define a problem statement. I actually use this actual tool called the problem statement canvas. It actually is the author for this is Marius Usashi, who's with MetaBeta. And there's a whole blog entry that defines how to use this tool, because this tool, all of the quadrants in here need to be filled in order for it to actually have a meaningful, for you to be able to create a simple and concise problem statement that everybody understands. And notice that not only do you account for, what is the problem and who has it, but you also are looking at the emotional, not just the economic, but the emotional impact to the people that are facing the problem. And then you're quantifying, not just creating a qualitative picture of what's going on, but also quantify how often it happens. What does it mean? How much time is wasted? How much funding is? How much cost or price is it's actually causing your stakeholders? All these things are the things that you want to have clarity on before you begin working on a solution. And all of this includes the trigger, the proof that it's actually a problem from the you validate it against the stakeholders that are facing the problem. It actually identifies the window of opportunity, the motivation of the people who are encountering the problem, what motivates them, and what would cause them to actually shift to something different instead. And what is the impact that they're facing today? And what is the competitive advantage that you need to include or embed into your solution that creates that unique value proposition that no one else in market today is offering to those prospects? And all of this allows you to start capturing, the real opportunity and really start looking at, is this something that is worthwhile solving? Is this a problem that is worthwhile solving? Here's an example from the same blog entry I spoke about earlier. And here's the way you would start filling it. And of course, this will be done by a team. And this is the resulting sample problem statement that you come up. Nothing in here is about the solution. It only describes the problem and who has it, and describes the who demographically, and also outlines the emotional impact of them encountering this problem whenever they encounter it. And the result is that you also are able to look at alternatives that have their own shortcomings, and therefore those are not the best solutions for these particular prospects. And now you can start looking at creating the right solution for this particular people. Here's an example. Tell me which brand or brands are solving this problem today in your market. So what brand or product allows you to securely store, automatically back up, and share large files that you can't normally email in a secure way, so that anyone of the people that you want to share those files with can access them from any mobile device that they have on them, and allows you to do this without the need for any kind of external storage device or drive that you need to ship or hand off to somebody else when you're trying to share these documents in real time. So type in your answers and then let me know, and then we can actually focus on two of the major brands that actually are solving this problem today. And chances are that if you are working in any organization today that is working remotely, you probably already have access to this, because everybody in your organization uses this for the entire organization. So I see a few responses, and here's the answers. It's either Dropbox or Box. Dropbox began, and then Box, they began around the same time, and actually started targeting specific different segments in the same market. They're both US companies, and Dropbox started by targeting the individuals, the people that have a need to share large documents ongoing. And that, included everybody from professors and their students and higher education, but then also included small business owners whenever they need to send information that is larger than anything that they can email. And if you know email is not secure at all. So you don't want to be, if you want some to do this, to transfer this information, be able to collaborate and often make changes on that in a collaborative way, email is not the right answer, because it's not in real time. Both of these services allow you to actually share a document and often make changes to it and then be transferring back and forth. And then you can do version control as well. So all of this is built into the solution that both Dropbox and Box offer. Let's move on to step number 2. Once you understand the market problem that you want to focus on figuring out how to solve, now you need to find the right solution. And the right solution and finding the right solution is never a straight path from point A to point B. You've got to figure out, what obstacles are out there and what challenges present themselves. And as you start doing the discovery and doing the diverging thinking, you start looking at the problem from different points of view and start looking for possible solutions that could work. And you might end up with a list of possible solutions. And now over time, as you're doing more and more discovery about the problem and about the prospects that have the problem, you're actually narrowing it down into specific types of solutions that might work better because they actually fit that market better than other solutions that you have on your list. And this is part of step number 2 that allows you to answer all of these questions that allow you to have a complete understanding of what should be the solution space that best fits the market that you are trying to go into. And often understanding not only what users like, it's just as important to understand what your users dislike, because you want to make sure that you keep all of that, whatever they don't like, away from your solution and only focus on things that they really want and that they really like, so that they can really enjoy using your solution better than somebody else. And because of that, if you're focused on that, you're going to be able to clearly discover over time a unique value proposition that no one else out there in the market is offering to those prospects that you're now discovering. And it may be worthwhile now to focus on figuring out how you can start designing and build and developing that solution so that it offers the unique value proposition that you have now tested against your prospects, so that they can actually become your customers at some point whenever you're ready to offer them the solution that you have found. And to do this right, you need to empathize with your prospects. You need to understand your target customers much better than your competitors in order for you to actually be able to be effective at creating a unique value proposition that no one else is offering in the market. And there's a different tool now that allows you to now narrow down into the elements, the pillars of creating a value proposition statement. And that is on the side of understanding the customer's mind, what are the gains that they're looking for? What are the pain points that are the most severe that they're feeling, and that they want to just somebody to keep them away from that, and the jobs to be done by your customers and your users. And this allows you to start looking at the solution and understand what are the gain creators that you can build into your solution, what are the pain relievers that you can embed into your solution, and how to shape the type of product that you're actually going to offer to those customers that are today facing that problem that you are focusing on solving. And so it's not about just getting the needs, it's about understanding their likes and the dislikes and their desires, and ensure that you include not just focus on satisfying the needs, but also satisfying their wants, their desires, and ensure you understand their delighters so that you can include all of these things into your solution, your product. And once you understand that, this actually starts feeding into the creation of the right business model that you need in order to not only build, but distribute the value proposition to your target customer segments. And to help you along, here's a chart of 10 characteristics of anything that is a unique value proposition. If you focus on coming up with a statement and you validate the statement against your stakeholders, you should ensure that that statement has these characteristics involved to ensure that you have truly a unique value proposition. And regardless, you can use this tool, the value proposition canvas, to actually come up and capture the gains, the pains, and the jobs to be done from the customer's point of view. And then you and your team need to now start looking at what are the gain creators and the pain relievers that you need to include into your product, and the type of product that you're going to be designing and building to solve your customers and your targets problem. So here's an example of a value proposition. Get upside. What is get upside? Well, if you didn't know, here's the get upside value proposition. It is a cashback application that allows consumers to earn rewards and brings merchants new customers based on user location. So all that get upside is a mobile application that you can download and install into your favorite mobile device, because they have their application is available at any of your favorite app store, and then you can install it for free. You can log in, sign in, and now you're discovering restaurants, grocery stores, and gas stations near you, where that whenever you purchase, you can get some cash back via the app. And you can pay cash based and just show proof that you made that purchase, with one of their merchants, affiliated merchants, as well as purchase with the built-in mobile wallet. So you can, instead of a credit card, you use the app itself to actually pay for whatever service you're consuming. And over time, you're getting cash back on all of your purchases. Well, it's a great value proposition for consumers because it doesn't cost you anything to use the app. You just have to install it, use it, and then find the merchants near you where you can actually make whatever purchase you need to make that day. For merchants, it actually helps because if you are loyal to any brand specifically, especially when you're getting gas, you're looking and the app is making recommendations based on where you're at today and where you're trying to fill your tank today as to what gas station is getting you the best prices. And they're actually giving you directions and instructions on how to get there because it's pretty nearby. And because you may not be familiar with it, it tells you how to get there. And you can make your purchase with the app. Well, all of this is also bringing those merchants new customers because it's helping match you as a consumer with the right business that you're looking for at the right time that is near you. And it's actually a quick convenience type of application because you don't have to be like driving around when you're in an unfamiliar neighborhood or a place, and it automatically tells you all the affiliated merchants that are offering you cash back without you to having some sort of established rewards or loyalty program prior to this. All you have to do is just use the app. So that's a value proposition for Get Upside. And we'll talk more about their business model because you may be wondering, well, if you're not charging the consumers any money, how is the app vendor, the app designer making money? We'll talk about that in this step, finding the right business model. And finding the right business model is of understanding the business space. It is just as important, especially if you're going to have a successful business, to not only understand the right problem to solve and the right solution that fits the market, the people facing the problem that you're solving. You also need to know that your business model is viable in the market, meaning you need to have clarity on the business space. And the business space answers all of these questions in the process of discovery during ideation. And the business model is nothing but a fancy phrase that describes in very simple terms how your business is going to make money by selling that proposed solution that you have come up with, which is a product. And that product can be either a good or a service or a combination of both, a good and services that are now included with the product and packaged along and priced accordingly for the market. Just want to make sure that you have clear understanding as to the type of business structure and the resources that you'll need and the suppliers and the key partners and the segments you're targeting and how you're going to reach out to those segments. How are they going to get to know you as a new business, and clarity about the cost structures and the revenue streams that you will have once you launch the business. And all of this will take time. It will take time and effort and funding to create the business, have all the business plan done, and be able to execute on the business plan in accordance. And it's going to take you some time to execute on designing and building the product before you're able to create it in scale so that you can start selling it and offering it in the market. But often that is the process of defining the business space, is understanding all those elements that are critical as to what you need for the business to get started and actually start ensuring that you have the right key resources, you understand and prioritize the key activities that need to occur, have the right partners and suppliers in place, understand the right value proposition that you need to deliver to the groups of customers that are going to be buying from you, and the types of relationships and distribution channels that you need to have in place to actually reach out to those customers, because they're gonna be brand new to you. If it's a brand new company, they don't know you don't know them, and you need to make sure that you can clearly, through your marketing efforts, focus on introducing yourself to those prospects so that they can get to know you, so they can buy from you. So cost structures and revenue streams are also part of that, because all of these will tell you that at the end of the day, you have three characteristics that should be part of any business model. When you're using the design thinking, you need to come up with a product that is feasible, desirable, and viable. And this is the meaning when it comes to your business model. The front stage, anything that is customer facing, determines the desirability by your customers. So the more desirable, the higher the perceived value, and also you can price your product accordingly. On the backstage, it's all the stuff that you're doing to take in from your supply chain and then be able to produce and get ready to then distribute and sell your product. So that's all in the backstage. And the backstage is about having the feasibility that you're going to be able to find the right suppliers, the right partners, and have the right resources in place, not only the people, but also the tools and the processes in place to carry out those key activities that create the value proposition that you want to offer in the market. And then finally, your business has to be able to get to profitability. It's not enough to just be able to sell and create some revenue when your cost structure is much higher than your current revenue, because you're always going to have to require funding to continue operating your business. You want to get to above that break-even period when your revenue is higher than your cost structure. And even as you're still paying out some of the debt that you incurred when you first started in building the product, you want to make sure that at least you're going to get to the point where all debt is going to be paid off. And now the more you sell, it becomes profit to the business over time. So that's what you want to make sure. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you have a lovable product and that your business model has these three characteristics. You are offering something that is highly desirable to your customers. It is feasible and it is viable, meaning that it can get to profitability very quickly once you go to market, once you begin implementing your plan. Here's an example of the business model canvas, which is the construct that I showed earlier. You can actually fill in all those quadrants. And here is the example of using the same canvas for Netflix. And notice Netflix, when they first started, they were shipping DVDs, right? They don't do that anymore, because now what they're doing is they're selling subscriptions to streaming services. And for Netflix, streams are created, and the lineup for streaming is created market by market, meaning Netflix in US has a different lineup than Netflix in Canada compared to Netflix in UK or Netflix in some other part of the world. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're actually creating subscription plans that are regional in nature, and the lineup changes based on preferences of that market. And market by market, Netflix is selling subscriptions to streaming services today. And that's how they have evolved from being a DVD shipper to now renting DVDs to actually now having subscription plans for streaming services of everything from TV shows to movies and other content. Going back to Get Upside, the mobile app the cashback mobile app that I spoke about earlier, here's a little bit description of how they make money. So as I mentioned, it doesn't cost consumers anything to install and opt into the mobile app. All you have to do is use it, and then you're getting cash back for your purchases that you normally make on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Now, what it offers is the opportunity for you to identify certain merchants that are near you, either near where you live or where you work or where you spend a good amount of time during any day of your week, of your average week, and then be able to just simply consume the same services and the same things that you normally do on a daily basis. But now you're getting cash back on your purchases. Well, it's a great value proposition because you're not paying anything as a consumer and you're getting cash back. But for merchants, you may be a brand new customer because you wouldn't have known about that merchant unless the app told you that it was near you. And it just happened to be serendipity. You were there and you were in need. And now they introduce you to a new store, whether it's a restaurant or a gas station or a grocery store. Those are all the things that you can now find on the app today. And they have over 40,000 locations available. Well, they're getting paid because the merchants that they actually list in the app are affiliated with Get Upside. And the affiliation means that for every purchase that anyone is making via the app, or that they're providing proof that they made that purchase cash-based on the app, those merchants will have to pay some percentage of that purchase back to Get Upside. And guess what? With 40,000 locations, and let's say each location is selling maybe $500,000 on the average a year. What is 2%, 3% of $500,000, and then multiply that for 40,000 locations around the US. And if that's the average for all 40,000 locations, which is probably, my guess is on the low side, especially for gas stations and maybe some of these grocery stores. My guess is that that's really the revenue, and that 2 or 3% really adds up. And the more merchants that they continue to add, the more revenue opportunity they're creating without necessarily having to rely on more consumers. They already have a few million consumers that are using the app today. As they add more merchants, it's going to expand their revenue uptake over time because there's going to be more purchase opportunities for any consumers who are using the app today. And guess what? If you look at the list of the fastest growing tech companies in US in 2021, they are listed by Statista as being the second fastest growing tech company in US last year in 2021, and growing at a rate of just over 60% year to year. Compared to in 2021, they grew 60% compared to previous year. And this is post-COVID-19 economy. More people are looking to find merchants and are willing to pay or go nearby, even if they don't know them, for the promise of saving some money. And that's the business model, and it actually is helping Get Upside actually grow very quickly. And they're set to continue to grow in the next 5 years. They're going to be adding more and more locations in US, and possibly my guess is they're going to be expanding across markets. So Canada, perhaps other parts of the world as well, where they actually can just continue to capture merchants as well as consumers and expand the business locally for these small business owners that are around near you. So that's take an example. I went through all 3 steps: finding and ways and methods so you can actually find the right problem. Number 2, find the right solution. And number 3, find the right business model. And if you do this right, you can get the impact of Get Upside or some of these examples of other companies that I spoke about earlier today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Here's a little bit more about my company, BoldPM. We inspire the next generation of product leaders to turn ideas into valuable products. And we help organizations grow high-performing product teams. We also help organizations build their growth engine so that they can continue to produce new products that become profitable over time. If you have a team or teams that you need help in building and growing, reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to talk to you and give you some actionable steps. We also just recently launched the BoldPM Academy. It's a set of live online workshops for product professionals who want to grow their product management skills and be able to also expand that network by meeting other top-notch product professionals who are there along with them in the learning process so they can become more effective product leaders. For more information, you can go to the URL at the bottom of the slide, so you can see the lineup of live online workshops that are coming up in the next few weeks. And of course, if you have any questions, I mentioned earlier, you can set up a free discovery call and we can talk about what's going on with you, with your team. If you need help with one team or more teams, or if you need help as an individual to actually grow your product management skills, we also offer coaching sessions for anyone who wants to learn more, and training for those that want to become much more effective product leaders within their organizations, or they want to get into product management or product marketing. Here's my contact information. You can feel free to reach out to me. And by the way, we are recording today's session. So if you reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn, let me know that you attended this session. I will make sure that I send you a post-event page where you can view the recording from today's discussion. In addition, there's a toolkit, all the tools, visual tools that I pointed out earlier. You can actually grab them, those are the handouts. You can download them from that page. So be sure to contact me and let me know you attended this session, and I'll be more than happy to send you that free toolkit and give you the link to that post-event page that we'll set up, where you can view the recording and also view every single slide that I showed during today's discussion. So with that, I want to thank you for being here today and for your attention. You've been a great audience, and I wanted to tell you good luck in whatever it is that you're doing. If you're looking to launch a new business because you have that entrepreneur bug in you, or that you are trying to be an entrepreneur, be sure to reach out to me and I can guide you along this process. If you haven't used it before, I can at least point you in the right direction so that you can start applying it to make sure you get the right results. Thanks so much, and you have a great rest of your week.